Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and this evening we warmly welcome the family of Flying Officer Charles George Watts, whose story will be told shortly by Chaplain Squadron Leader Nikki Coleman from the Royal Australian Air Force, who is Flying Officer Charles Watts' granddaughter. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the ceremony broadcast across Australia. Also this evening, we welcome Wing Commander retired Bob Howe, representing the Air Force Association. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you. If able, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Flying Officer Charles George Watts. Charles George Watts was born on the 3rd of June 1911 in the Sydney suburb of Waverley, the son of Arthur and Ellen Watts. Charles and his sister Ethel grew up in Sydney. He attended Cleveland Street Intermediate High School and went on to work as a petty sessions officer. On the 28th of March 1936, he married Ruth Townsend. The pair lived in the Sydney suburb of Chatswood and had 2 children, Patricia, born in 1937, and Philip, born in 1940. As well as being a qualified police magistrate, Charles Watts was heavily involved with the Methodist Church as an accredited preacher, Sunday school teacher, choir master, church pianist, and youth group leader. He was also a keen amateur cricketer and tennis player. In 1940, Watts joined a part-time militia unit, the 16th Light Horse Regiment, and served for 6 months. His wartime service began in earnest when he enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 18th of July, 1942. After initial training, Watts began training as a wireless operator and an air gunner, first at Parkes and then Port Pirie. He joined an operational training unit in April 1943, graduating in July. In August, he was transferred to No. 13 Squadron, which was initially based at RAF Station Darwin. There, the squadron's headquarters, stores and spares had been destroyed by the Japanese air raids on Darwin in February 1942. Whilst its aircraft were undamaged, the squadron was forced moved, so by the time Watts joined, it was based in RAF Base Fairbairn. Because of Watts' legal expertise, he was in attendance at a variety of courts-martial through late 1943 and early 1944. By late 1944, Watts and his squadron had moved to Cooktown in north-eastern Queensland and then to Gove in the Northern Territory. The squadron mainly carried out anti-submarine and escort patrols, though it also mounted a small number of bombing raids against the eastern islands of the Netherlands East Indies. Watts was devoted to his family, writing well over 200 letters to them during his service. In some of his letters, he passed on anecdotes about Gough Whitlam, who became a friend when they served in the same squadron. While stationed in the Northern Territory, Watts took part in church services at the Yirrkala Methodist Mission and was taken out to sea in a canoe by his friends from the mission. On the 27th of January 1945, Watts was a crew member in a Ventura twin-engine medium bomber that took off from Gove Strip at 5:30 a.m. The aircraft headed north, but about 20 minutes later returned, circled the aerodrome whilst requesting landing instructions. During its landing approach, the aircraft struck the ground, disintegrating on impact. All crew members aboard the aircraft were killed. Flight Lieutenant George Anderson, Flying Officer Murdo Chowns, Flying Officer Bruce Poole, Leading Aircraftsman James Pugh, Warrant Officer John Kay, and Flying Officer Charles Watts, who was 33 years old. Today, Charles Watts' remains lie in the Adelaide River War Cemetery alongside 435 Commonwealth burials from the Second World War. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died during the Second World War. The photograph displayed today beside the pool of reflection, Flying Officer Charles Watts is pictured with his wife Ruth and their children Patricia and Philip. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flying Officer Charles George Watts, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.